Hey everyone, we are really going to change gears from my normal video topics. As some of you know, I started making videos in October of 2018, and then in July of 2020, I quit my full-time job and I became a full-time YouTuber. And my full-time job was, I was a 7-Eleven store manager. I started with 7-Eleven in 1993, and I worked with them for 27 years until 2020, and that's when I quit to do YouTube full time. Now, one question I get asked a lot is, did I have to do a pay cut? And the answer is initially yes. When I quit my other job, YouTube was not paying me as much as that job was earning. But by 2021, like if we look at the calendar year of 2021, I made about 20% more doing this than I had ever earned working for 7-Eleven. Now, as you might imagine, nobody's getting rich managing 7-Eleven stores, and I am certainly not getting rich doing this, but I would say I'm comfortable. And yeah, one of the things I get asked is, so what advice would I give to somebody else who is maybe considering doing YouTube as a full-time job? And so what I want to do in this video is I want to really talk about it. I want to talk about what you need to get started, things you need to get over in order to get started, how you make a video, and what the income is like and how you earn it. Yeah, very different topic than my normal topics here. Hopefully the YouTube algorithm isn't going to punish me too much for doing that. So first off, a lot of people who go into YouTube have backgrounds or education in film editing, or they've been behind a camera extensively in other jobs or fields, or they have graphics design experience or animation experience. I have none of those things. So when I started with YouTube, this was the most alien thing to me you could imagine. I had never, ever sat behind a camera and, recorded my voice. That just had never occurred. I had very little experience behind a microphone, and I had never recorded myself behind a microphone ever. So I just had no idea what I was doing. But like I said, in 2021, I made enough money on this that I was earning more than I had in my previous position. Now, you might think it takes like a lot of subscribers. I had told myself that I would probably need 100,000 subscribers before I could do this full time. Well, as I record this video, I have significantly below 100,000 subscribers. And in 2021, like I said, I earned decent money. And I started that year with 28,000 subscribers. And I finished that year with 43. So you can make enough income to get by or be comfortable with significantly fewer subscribers. In fact, subscribers don't mean nearly as much as you think they do. Now, if you have that education and experience in graphics design and working behind a camera and film editing and all that kind of stuff, I probably don't have as much wisdom for you that maybe this video isn't for you. But if you have none of those things, but you're still thinking, I wonder if I could do YouTube, you're my people. And I think I have a lot to share that you might find helpful. So before you get started, there is some stuff you're going to need. So here it is in no particular order. First off, you need equipment. So I have a microphone here. I started with, it was called a Blue Yeti. This is considered a good, entry-level microphone for a YouTuber. Cost me about $100, and it came with a free webcam. And the webcam that I got for free is the one you're watching me on right now. That I still use it all the time. So I thought that was pretty good entry-level. Now, one thing I should warn people from my own mistakes is that I got the Blue Yeti microphone. I did the research to determine what kind of microphone I should get, and that's the one I got. What I didn't research was how to set it properly, because there are like little dials on it and they need to be set to the right things. And there's instructional videos on YouTube you can watch, and they'll let you know in 5 minutes how to properly set it up. And I just didn't know to look at those. So I'm telling you to look at them. It is embarrassing how long I went where you could hear my furnace going on and off in the background, and my voice sounded like, it was in the background of some other video. It was not good sound at all. And I thought maybe it was a bad microphone, but it wasn't that. It was just I had the settings wrong. I got the settings right, and my audio got a lot better. Once you have that hardware, and of course you need a computer too, then you are also going to need some software. Now, your computer probably already has a program to record you. If I have a Windows computer, so I just use the little camera app. You click the video icon, and suddenly you're recording yourself on video. But once you have your recording, then you're going to need to edit it, and you will need an editing program. Now, I had never edited a video before. I wonder if I can do it without editing because, I really don't. That's really something that's not comfortable for me. Well, you can't. You've probably noticed several editing cuts already in this video because you will have to edit. So what I did is I researched what is the easiest editing program to use for a beginner, and I was led to Wondershare Filmora. So I got that program and I still use it today. It is not an advanced editing program, but it is very easy to use. There are tutorials online. You can click in YouTube and you can watch like a 15-minute video. That will give you all the basics you need in order to use Wondershare Filmora. So I would recommend that if you really have no idea about editing. That's a good way to get started. It worked for me. Then there is lighting to consider. Now, normally when I do videos, I'm not on camera. This is unusual. If you are new to this channel, me being on camera is not something you normally see. Once in a while I do it. So things like lighting and my setup behind me, those are things I normally don't worry about. Furthermore, I don't have a teleprompter. A lot of YouTubers, if they are on screen, they're reading off a teleprompter. What I have is a webcam, and then I have my script down here. And so what I do is I read my script and I try to remember, and then I look up at you, and then I say what I was just reading, and then I'll edit the bit out where I was looking down. And that's part of the reason there's all these cuts, because I want to talk to you, not to my script. But there's no way I can memorize the entire script. Lighting and setup, I don't worry too much about that. Here's what I've got for lighting right now is I've got the regular light in my room up, and I've got a lamp, and it's right behind the webcam, just off to the side a bit. And it kind of shines in light from the other side, and that's all I've got. And that's why my lighting isn't all that great. If, you are on camera all the time, you want better lighting than this. But it at least gets me by. I mean, in my first video I did, you would have thought I was a ghoul, right? Because my lighting was so bad. But, at least this is not terrible. And set up, again, there's nothing special here. I got my water jug, and you've got a thing of books in behind. I try to have them neat. See, they're all lined up pretty neat there. So I try to do that for the camera. And I had a pair of shoes. They were in front of that closet back there, and I had to move them before I started recording. But other than that, I don't do much. A lot of people will use green screens. So they would have, just some green felt hanging behind them. And then they can do a green screen and put whatever they want there. And that could work for you as well. But if you were going to be on camera, you probably want to do more things than I've done. Because most of the time I am not on camera. What I'll do is I record my voice, and then I throw up graphics and visual aids throughout the video to try to, at least so people are not watching a blank screen. And that's how I do most of my videos. And the advantage of doing it that way is that, like I said, you've probably seen many cuts already. Well, you don't see the cuts if it's just audio. So I can cut as much as I want. And one thing I do is I stumble over my words all the time. That's something I've never gotten over. I thought, maybe when I do this enough times, I won't stumble over words anymore. No, I still stumble over words. I still need to edit all that stuff. So there are lots of edits on my videos. The other thing that you should be aware is if you choose to do that, just be aware that although the editing is nicer when you're just doing audio, you need to come up with things to put on the screen. And that is a pain in the ass. Just coming up with all the graphics, it is time consuming and it's not fun. So there is a give and take. I've made my decision, and, at some point I might change it. At some point I might actually, dish out for a teleprompter. I don't know where I'll put it in this room because they're fairly big, but, I might do that at some point just because it would save me a lot of time on, the graphics and the visual aids and all that stuff. But anyway, most of the time, not on screen, but, I've got enough here that I can kind of get by for a video like this. So that's the equipment, right? That's the hardware and the software you need. Then what you're going to need is, what exactly is your YouTube channel going to be? Because, if you just do a YouTube channel where you're talking about what you had for breakfast, unless you are good looking and charming and witty, you are not going to get views. Now, if you are those three things, then we're pretty much done, because you'll probably make it. If you are good looking, charming, and witty, you're probably going to do well on YouTube. If you're not, like me, then you need to come up with content that is going to convince a viewer to sit through ads in order to consume. So you need to decide what that is for you. If you decide that, I'm going to do a YouTube channel on gardening, that's not enough. There's YouTube channels on gardening right now. What do you have to say about gardening that nobody else is saying? Or what do you have to say about gardening that's better than anyone else is saying? Or more entertaining? It's got to be something that is going to bring people to your channel, so they're going to watch the ads on your videos, or you're not going to make any money at it, and you're not going to get any views or subscribers. So for me, I knew I was going to talk about D&D. I love D&D. That's obviously what I was going to talk about. My wife actually told me, she said, maybe you should do video games. There's a lot more people who play video games than play D&D. And she's right. There's way more. But there's no point in me talking about video games, because I have nothing to say about video games that other people aren't saying better than me. Nobody is going to click on my video to hear me talk about video games. The issue isn't the subject. The issue is the person who's giving that content. And the same thing actually for D&D. If I was just talking about D&D in general, like, here's how I role play, I probably wouldn't make it. Ginny D, she can talk about how she role plays, and that's going to get views because she has something interesting to say on the topic. For me, I like playing D&D, I like to role play, but I'm not insightful enough on that topic in order for it to be engaging content. I had to find what was right for me, and for me, there was no choice. I had to talk about optimization, because when it came to D&D, I liked the whole game, but my specialty, what I knew the most about, my expertise, was in optimization, the math, and rules analysis. And I've been writing about this stuff online for years and years, for free, because you don't earn any money doing that. But I did it as a hobby because it was my passion. And that's what it's got to be. What are you passionate about? What are you an expert on? What do you have insights on that you don't see other YouTube channels doing? I imagine the standard viewer here already has something they're passionate about and they're expert about. They have insights on. Maybe it's what you do for a living, maybe it's not. And if you do a YouTube channel on that, you have a real chance of success, whether you're good looking or not, whether you're witty and charming or not. I am none of those things, and I seem to be getting by. And you'll see it in other D&D content creators as well. Like, I will watch Nerd Immersion. Well, Nerd Immersion, what he does is he talks about D&D news, right? What's happening now in the world of D&D? What is Wizards of the Coast up to? What new books are coming out? If I want that information, Nerd Immersion has done the research himself at multiple different sites, I assume, to get this all together so he can present it in one format on his channel. And for me, that is worth watching, even if I had to sit through ads through it. Now, I'm a premium subscriber, so he is earning income from me watching, and I don't have to watch the ads. But if I did have to watch ads, I would, because it's content that's worth watching. I watch XP to level 3. XP to level 3, I'm not getting for D&D news. I'm watching him because he's funny, right? He writes these super funny scripts. He has this real talent for comedy. And then he combines it with one of my favorite subjects, which is D&D. So I get D&D comedy, pretty much the best that's out there. So he is worth watching. He's worth going through ads to see. Matt Colville is a huge success story in the D&D sphere. And he started making videos that were like tutorials, and they had like no views. And then he decided, you know what? I am an expert DM. I know a lot about DMing. I have insights that I want to share with people about DMing. And I think I could do that, a lot of those. And he is still doing those. And as soon as he started, his channel started taking off. And he has made this rather large business all around that. For me, it had to be optimization. I had opinions on things and insights on things, and I watched YouTube channels, and nobody was covering it. Like one of my first videos, I did a video on the trickery cleric because I thought the subclass for trickery was underrated. Everyone, online would just dump on the trickery cleric. It sucks. So I made a video where I talked about how I thought it was better than people gave it credit for. Basically, it wasn't just, I think you're wrong because I think it's good. What I had to do is I had to say, here's why I think trickery cleric is good. Because I think this thing is getting underrated. I think this thing is getting missed altogether. I think this thing is not as bad as people say it is. And so people would watch that, and it did well for me at the time. Compared to my videos today, didn't do that well. But compared to the videos I had released up to then, it suddenly did a lot better. And because it's not because people liked the trickery cleric and they wanted to hear me defend it, and it's not that people necessarily watched the video and they changed their opinion. The reason they watched, I assume, is because I had an opinion that wasn't the standard opinion. I was saying something that other people weren't saying, and I was explaining why I had that opinion. And so that was engaging content for them. And so that video did well. They were willing to watch that content. And I've kind of built my career on that. I look for things where I don't agree with the common opinion, and then I will talk about them and I'll explain why I don't agree with the common opinion. And I seem to have done fairly well doing that. And of course, there's math and there's rules analysis and there's builds. It's all optimization because that's what I'm passionate about. If I have anything to say that is of value, it's on that because that's my expertise. If I looked at XP to level 3 and said, wow, that guy's way more successful than me, I should do comedy D&D, my channel would be dead, okay? Because I can't write comedy like him. If I tried to do it, no one would click on those videos. They would watch him instead because he's better. I had to find the thing that I was better at and do videos on that. And whatever you want to do, it's got to be what you're best at and what you're passionate about. If it's not going to do well. Now, like I said, if you are good looking and charming and funny, you know people on YouTube right now who have those qualities and they're successful even though, there's nothing overly special in their videos. And the reason they're successful is because they're good looking, charming, and witty. So if you have those qualities, then maybe this is too much for you. You don't need to worry about all those things. But for the rest of us out there, that's what you need. You need that thing that you are an expert on, that you have something to say about, that's of enough value that people are willing to watch ads in order to hear you say it. But assuming YouTube is new to you, I haven't talked about what your biggest challenge is going to be to get started. Because I will tell you, I had by far the biggest roadblock was I decided that I was going to do a YouTube channel. And then it was 6 months before I actually made YouTube content. And it wasn't time I was spending gathering equipment or getting software or teaching myself how to do it. It was time where I was simply telling myself, you're going to suck. No one's going to watch this. This is going to be an embarrassment to you. You don't know how to edit a video. The people out there, they're good at it. You have no idea what you're doing. You watched a 15-minute tutorial. It's going to look terrible. You don't know how to light your video. You're going to look ridiculous. And if you upload a video right now, it's going to be a terrible video. And you know what? I wasn't wrong. My first video is terrible, right? The lighting is ridiculous. I had the settings wrong on my microphone, as you already know. So you could hear all this background noise and barely hear me. The cuts are embarrassingly bad. And worst of all, I am there and I am shaking and I'm trying not to shake so that it shows on the camera. And I'm speaking and I'm really scared to talk because this is so frightening. And then I finished the video and I'm like, this is terrible. And I put it up anyway, and I'm proud of it. The reason I'm proud of it is because I put it up anyway. Yes, it's a terrible video, but here's the thing. So if you are involved in training, you already know this, but I have been trained in training. That was part of my previous job. I trained managers. My boss. I trained my bosses in some cases. There was a point in time there I was a full-time trainer. And they had me take courses on training. And this is how it works. If you want somebody to be good at a skill, this is what you need to do. Number one, you start with the explanation. This is how you do this. But that is never enough. Way too many people think, well, I explained it really clearly. Why didn't they get it? Well, because that's not how adults learn things. You start with the explanation, then you demonstrate it. So it's one thing to say how to do it, then you show them. This is how I do it. After that, then they need to do it in front of you with your supervision and help. So you have them do it and you give them some correction and some advice. Maybe do this a little bit differently. Try doing this. Oh, that's good, but this one here, you should have it over here. You make those corrections and then they do it on their own. And you'll look at their work afterwards and you give them feedback on it or support. And then they need to practice it over and over and over and over again. And then they will be good at that skill. That is the way adults learn. The reality is there was just no way I was going to be going on camera and uploading a video that was going to be good. Because it's one thing to know I shouldn't be nervous. It's another thing to not be nervous. That's not something you choose. You just either are or you aren't. And I'm not nervous right now. And the reason I'm not nervous right now is because I've been this ape in front of this microphone for 4 years. This isn't nerve-wracking to me in the least. This is what I do all the time. But there was no way I was going to make those first few videos and not be absolutely terrified. And it affects the quality. I had a comment on one of those videos. In fact, it was my very first video that I had this comment where somebody said, listen, you can really see how nervous you are. You should probably stop doing this, go get some acting lessons, and then come back and try this again. Now, I don't know if they were trying to be mean or if they were giving just honest advice. But whether the advice was honest or not, it's terrible advice. It is terrible advice. You do not learn how to not be nervous by taking courses. You learn it by doing. The only way that I was going to stop being nervous in front of the camera is to do it over and over and over again. The only way I was going to get any better at lighting, I know it's still not great, but the only way I was going to get any better at lighting is keep making the videos and better at editing. All those things, it just requires practice and practice and practice. And the only way you do that is you have to get started. And in order to do that, you have to accept your initial product is going to suck. It's going to suck. I'm sorry to tell you that. But you need to accept that and move on and do it anyways. Because the only way you won't suck is by doing it. It is going to come, but you have to keep doing it. I mean, think about it this way. Let's say you wanted to learn guitar. You could watch 1 million YouTube videos on how to play guitar. You could have, the greatest guitarists in the world explaining to you how to play good guitar. And you will pick up a guitar for the very first time and you will be awful, right? There's just no way to do it without actually practicing. All right, so that out of the way, you're about to get started. How do you actually make a video? Well, the very first thing you need, and this is a bigger portion of the entire thing than you might think, is you have to have your topic. So in this video, I am talking about how to be a YouTuber. That doesn't come right away. You have to figure out what the topic is. And a lot of topics, what you'll do is you'll kind of roll them over in your head and try to think about how a video would look. And then you'll come to realize, I don't have anything insightful to say about this. Or this doesn't really fit in video form. If I wanted to tackle this topic, I'd have to do it in writing. There is no way I can do it on a video screen. That can be the case too. A lot of topics that I get suggested or I come up with the idea for, I end up tossing away. And I'll spend a whole day, 1 day a week, I'll actually spend on video topics. And I basically need to come up with 2 video topics that are going to be actual videos. And yeah, it takes a long time to come up with those. And what I'll do is, I kind of research it. Like I'll look at Reddit and see what are, the people on the D&D Reddits, what are they talking about right now? What are they interested in? Is there anything there I have special insights on? Do the same thing on Discord. And then I take suggestions for videos and, sometimes like I said, they're just not going to work in video form, or I just don't have anything to say on this that I think is worth a video. But, some of them do. And so eventually I get my 2 topics and I outline them. So I need to figure out, like, if it's going to be a video, then I should already know, all right, this is how I'm going to introduce this subject. These are the topics I want to cover and what I want to say about those topics. And this is how I'm going to wrap it up. And I need to be able to write that down. And I do. I write it down right away because I've made the mistake of having something in my head, and you're keeping effort to keep it in your head. And then you go have lunch and you come back and it's gone. And then you're starting again. Sometimes you don't even remember what the subject was, never mind how it was all going to be laid out. So you do a full outline. Next day, or whenever it is, now you're going to need to write a script. I will tell you, writing a script is a pleasure. So this script that I am reading right now, it is on its 3rd iteration. The 2nd iteration, I'll tell you what happened. So I woke up and I had a weird dream. So I woke up like in the middle of the night. It's 3:30. One of the nice things about working for yourself is no one's telling you when you have to start work or stop work. So normally if I would wake up at 3:30, I have anxiety because I have to get up in a few hours and then I'm going to have to do a full day of work. Well, now I have the freedom. I can just get up at 3:30 and start working. And you know what? If I get tired, I'll go take a nap and then come back to it. But what happened is I started scripting, and I guess it was about 4 o'clock when I started. And the next thing I knew, I had a knock on my office door. And my wife came in and she's like, "Is it okay if I come in?" I'm like, "Sure." And she said, "Am I on my own for supper?" And I looked at my watch and it was 8 p.m. I just zoned out for the entire day. I had not looked at the clock. I was shocked it was so late. Time flies. Like, I love scripting, because I have something to say. I have opinions, and it's like therapeutic to write them down. To some degree, it's bad because there's less time to work on everything else I need to do in the week. But in terms of the actual time I spent, it was totally enjoyable. Now, once you have a script, then you have to read the script and you have to think about it. And sometimes it needs some massaging. Like, sometimes it'll go off topic. Sometimes it'll go around and, you go from one topic to the other, and then you're back at the initial topic again, and you kind of cover it again because you didn't realize you'd already written it down. So you have to correct that. Sometimes you'll have the various topics you're going to cover, and suddenly you have this like pages and pages of script over what was supposed to be a minor topic that you didn't actually think you had much to say on. So you end up editing that out because it's just not all that valuable. So definitely some massaging, and then you're going to record. Now, recording for me is generally a matter of hours. The current script I'm reading is 30 pages long. Now, you might not hear all 30 pages when I actually release the video. I might edit some of it out. I often do, but that is how much it currently is. And I do re-record sometimes. Like I said, I stumble over my words all the time. If I do that like an exceptional amount, then I'll realize that, this is going to be a nightmare to edit. I might actually save myself time by just re-recording and save on hours of editing. And editing is terrible. If you can avoid editing time, it's worth it. So I often will re-record, and I normally don't mind re-recording. I'll tell you what, I'm re-recording this one right now, and it's not because my initial take wasn't good. In fact, I was quite happy with it. It was because I finished the recording and I hit the stop recording and there was a glitch and I lost the file. I've had it also where, I had the settings wrong and, I'll get a file 2 hours long, no audio. So, because I had the microphone turned off or muted. So then you got to re-record. And when you have to re-record in those cases, I don't enjoy this, right? I would much rather have had my initial take go through. But, you have to do it sometimes. But once you have finished recording and you've hit stop record, and hopefully when this one is done, I'll hit and I'll actually have a file. Then the fun part of making videos is over. The rest is no fun. So now you have to edit it. And editing, I don't know, you people who like do professional video editing and you do it all day, I don't know how you do it. Me doing it a couple days a week, I despise editing. Editing, it goes through basically 1 hour of content takes about 3 hours to edit. And basically, you're listening to these little clips over and over again, trying to get that cut in just the right spot. Oh, it's just terrible. Now, if you are not on camera when you're recording, you are not done because you now need to fill up the screen, right? So now you need all the pictures and maybe the visual aids, and you need to put them in, and you don't want them to be on the screen too long, or people are going to lose interest. And that part is no fun. I'll tell you, it is also really time consuming and not fun at all. But like I said, it's the price you pay. Now, once you are happy with the final video, or satisfied in some cases with the final video, now you need to process it. And the editing software, basically what it does is it takes all these little clips that you've made and little pictures, and it puts them all together in a single MP4 file. This is not fast, at least on Wondershare Filmora, it's not fast. If I've got an hour-long video, probably it's going to take me 2 hours to process it. And I do think it depends on how many little things you're adding. I usually have like several lines of stuff, and it does make it a lot slower. Once you have your MP4 file, then you need to upload it to YouTube. So that process is pretty easy. YouTube is pretty user-friendly for uploading videos. But one thing YouTube is not good at is processing the video quickly, because you upload the MP4, that doesn't take long at all, but then YouTube needs to process it again. So a video has to process 2 times. And again, it's really slow, and the longer your video, the longer it is going to take. Then you need to do a thumbnail. Now, there are a lot of YouTubers out there who do great thumbnails. I think a lot of them use like software that they purchased. I just use a free site, and I do like a simple thumbnail. I probably could get more views if I did better thumbnails. It's just not something I'm good at, so I don't spend a lot of time on it. I'm just like, this thumbnail, it says what the video is about, and has a picture, good enough. Then, once you got all that, you have to watch the video. And this is going to happen a lot, or at least it does to me, is I will watch my video, and suddenly I notice I'm suddenly looking at my script on screen, because when I do my recording, if I'm not on camera, I do like a screen grab as I'm recording, and suddenly, it's the script on the screen because I missed a spot for the graphics. So then I got to go back, or sometimes it's coughing, right? Or, you stopped for a bit, and, suddenly there's like 10 seconds of silence. And all those things, they're going to happen. And the reason is because although you know how to edit this stuff, the editing is mind-numbing. And when you're doing something that's mind-numbing, it's hard to keep track sometimes. So, then you have to go back. Now, save all your work, right? So you bring up the save project, and then you fix the problems. And then you're going to reprocess it, re-upload it, and then YouTube will reprocess it again. It's going to take a lot of time, but then you get your corrected version up, and then you watch it again, and you make sure it's all there. Now, usually what I'll do is, like, I usually put timestamps on my videos, and I'll do that at the same time. So I'll watch the video, and then as I come to a new subject, I'll enter the timestamps. I'll look what time it is. And so I'm kind of doing 2 things at once. But yeah, you'll expect to watch your own video several times before you can share it with anyone. So now you have a video up on YouTube. Now, what I normally do is when I upload it, I do not monetize the video, and I leave it unlisted. So unlisted basically means that person needs a link in order to watch the video. Otherwise, it won't show up on your computer. And so then what I'll do is I'll share that with my patrons, because I figure my patrons are paying me directly, so why should they have to watch ads? So I will show them the video early, and then they can see it without the ads. And then once I'm going to make it public, then I'll monetize it. And you need to choose when the ads will appear in your video. So, if it's a short video, like less than 10-minute video, I won't put in any ads in the middle. So you'll have to watch an ad to watch the video. Otherwise, I don't earn any money on the video. But I'll do an ad at the beginning, and that's it, right? But if it's a long video, then I do mid-roll ads. So, it depends on the length of the video. Sometimes I might do an ad after 10 minutes. Sometimes it might be 20. Sometimes it might even be half an hour between ads. But that's only if the video is very, very long. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to kind of think At what point will a viewer be willing to watch an ad to watch the rest of this video? If you put an ad too early, like YouTubers have total control of where the ads go and how many ads there are. Like I could do a 5-minute video and I could put an ad every 30 seconds. No one's going to watch that, and so it won't earn me any money. It will also probably drive people away from my channel. So you have to kind of think, ultimately, this is my living. I need to make money. On the other hand, am I providing enough product, right, that makes it worth the viewer to watch the ad? And this is largely guesswork. I'm sure there's people who do it better than me, but I've kind of given my thoughts on how I kind of pick when those ads are going to occur. Once it's monetized, I set it to public, and then I just wait for the results to come in. So as I go back to YouTube, it's going to tell me how many views this has gotten and how it ranks compared to my last 10 videos. And sometimes it's 1 out of 10, and sometimes it's 10 out of 10. And a surprisingly large amount of the time, I have no idea until I actually see those numbers. But for those first few hours, well, I'm waiting to see how the video does. I'd like to use that time. I'll go into the comments, and if I see any questions that I think I have a good answer for, then I will write a response. Otherwise, I'll read a lot of the comments and just put a little, like if you see my little icon and the heart, that means I've read the comment and I enjoyed the comment, but I didn't feel there was necessarily a response required. So that's what that will mean. And like I said, I'll do that for a few hours, and I won't necessarily go back to the comments after that at all. When I first started, I used to, read every single comment, and any comment that asked a question or deserved a response, I would respond to. And that, unfortunately, just is not realistic eventually, because as you get more views on videos, you will get more comments. And eventually, if you wanted to respond and read every comment, that would be your full-time job. There's no way you could make videos and do that. It would just be overwhelming. But when you first start out, it's maybe not a bad idea because engagement with your audience does help convince them to come back. Now, let's say for a moment you decide, all this sounds good. I can get over my self-doubt. I can get the equipment I need and the software I need. I'll figure out how to edit. I don't care that some of my early stuff might not be so great. It will be great once I get used to it, and I know exactly what I'm going to talk about, and it's going to be great. There's another thing you need to know, and that is, and you should know this already probably, is that when you start YouTube, you will work for free. You will not be paid for your initial releases on YouTube, and it might be a long, long time before you see a cent from any video. So basically, what happens is you start with YouTube and you are not a partner, right? So your videos will not have ads, and if they don't have ads, you will not earn any money. So what you need is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watched hours within a year, I think, which is really generous because, I mean, like right after I had qualified with the 1,000 subscribers, I was already earning well over 4,000 hours a month of views. If you are only getting 4,000 hours of views over a year, even if you're monetized, you're going to make nothing, right? So basically, took me about 2 months, and then I had my 1,000 subscribers and enough hours viewed, and then I applied for monetization. That doesn't get a response right away. It takes about a month before you get a response that a human being has watched your content. They've determined that you're following the YouTube rules, and therefore you qualify for monetization. Then you get everything set up, and you still don't get any money right away because what happens then is now you are starting to earn money, but they don't pay you right away. You have to do a full month, and then whatever you earned that month, you won't be paid for that until near the end of the next month. So although I started in October and it took me about 2 months to monetize, I actually didn't see payment until nearly the end of February. Now, the reason it wasn't the end of January is because my first month of monetization, I mean, you are excited to be monetized because you have achieved this goal, but don't get too excited, okay? Because my first payment was $98 for the month. And I kind of figured that was less than $1 an hour. In fact, it was so low that YouTube wouldn't pay it out because they won't pay out less than $100. So basically, they hang on to it for you. And then the next month, assuming now your total is over 100, now they'll pay you out like for both months, right? So that's what happened is basically January and December got added together and I got paid for them in February. So it was quite a while before I earned anything. And then what I'm earning is like 100 or 200 a month. This is nothing, right? Compared to the amount of time I'm doing this. And basically, if you have a full-time job and you are thinking YouTube is something I want to do instead of my full-time job, but I need to keep my full-time job because I have bills to pay, just be prepared that you will be working 2 jobs for a long time. I worked 2 jobs for almost 2 years. So basically, this is how my day would go. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. I'd get ready for work. I'd go to work, work till 3. And if I was lucky, I'd leave at 3. Sometimes it was later than that. Then I'd come home. Then I'd get to work on creating YouTube content. Then I would stop to make supper. I'd spend half an hour with my family eating supper. After that was done, then I'd go back to work on YouTube, and I'd work on that till about 10 at night. Then I'd go to bed, and at 5 a.m., I'd do the same thing again. And I did not take weekends off. On weekends, I worked just on YouTube, and I'd work all day, both days on the weekend. And there was about almost 2 years where my family saw me for about half an hour a day. And that's just the way it was. Now, they knew what I was trying to do, so they supported it, but it was hard on the family. It was hard on me. I mean, I was just totally burnt out by the time I quit my other job. In fact, I quit my other job probably earlier than I would have. And I wasn't super confident about where YouTube was when I left it, but I have to say, I just had to choose. There was no way I could do both anymore. And I thought, YouTube has really been building up, and I looked at my budget and I had to cut it to the bone. And then I was able to make that switch. And YouTube paid me a lot less than managing a 7-Eleven for a while, but eventually it picked up. But where does the money come from? Well, the way it works is when you click on one of my videos and you watch an ad, I get a portion of that ad revenue. It's split between me and Google. Google is the one who negotiates those ads, and then they share the profit with me when you watch the ads on one of my videos. And the exact split, they don't tell me what it is. I don't know what it is, but I earn a portion of it. That's what I can tell you. So the more ads you watch on my video, the more money I'm earning. Also, if you have a YouTube Premium account and you watch my videos, it shows me the amount of revenue I have from people with YouTube Premium who are watching my videos, because of course, they're not watching ads. So again, YouTube is sharing with me the profits of those YouTube Premium payments. And again, I don't know what the split is on that. But what I can tell you is it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have. In theory, if you have more subscribers, then you're showing up on more subscriber feeds when you make new videos. But that doesn't mean necessarily that you're getting more views. I know a D&D channel that has more than double my subscribers, but they have about 1/10 as many views. They've got to be having a tough time. Now, I get that watching ads is not fun. I don't enjoy watching ads either. But here's the thing. Making videos is work, right? And people deserve to be paid for their work. Now, my patrons pay me directly, and they don't watch the ads. And then if you have YouTube Premium, that pays me as well. But if you're not a patron and you watch an ad before this video, then that is how you're paying me, right? Because otherwise, the video is free to you. The only payment you're making is you watching the ads. But whether you're a patron or you watched an ad on my video, I should thank you because you are contributing to me making a living. I get paid for the Google ads once per month, usually between the 22nd and the 24th of the following month that I earn that money. It's not always on the same day, so I'm not sure why the variance, but that's about when it shows up. But I already know how much it's going to be before I see it because YouTube Analytics will show me my estimated revenue, and I find my estimated revenue is really accurate. So usually by the 3rd or the 4th of the month, I know exactly what I'm going to earn for the previous month. Now, I had a patron who told me that they were kind of watching the growth of my channel through Social Blade. So here is Social Blade, and some of this information is correct. 400 plus videos, that's correct. The 58,000 subs, that's correct. Then it goes over the analytics. So on the left-hand side, you have a date, and it tells you how many subs I had that day in hundreds. So it's showing either 0 or 100, because I usually have fewer than 100 subs a day. And then it says how many views I had that day. And you can see it's normally in the 20,000 range. And then on the right, it gives you my estimated earnings. I don't know where they get these numbers from, but they're wrong. So if you are looking at this and going, there's no way I can make a living earning $6 a day, these are not accurate numbers. Like, for example, let's look at August 20th here. It says I earned between $10 and $154 that day. August 20th was when I released my look at the new 1D&D playtest, and that video did way better than most of my videos do. Lots of people watched, and they watched for a long time. My earnings that day were well over $300. I mean Canadian, but still. Now, if I earned that much every day, that would be outstanding. I wouldn't need a penny more, but on video release days, I earn a lot more. So I normally release a video every Monday and Friday. Sometimes I do more than that, but for the most part, that's when I release videos. Here is a graph of my July revenue, and you can see the Mondays and Fridays, clear as day, because they're the days that there's the peaks. And then on the non-video days, you can see that it's, for the most part, about half as much. I mean, at least most of the time. Because you might notice, if you look like right in the middle of that graph, there's a peak that is barely a peak at all. And that's when I released a video. It was on naval combat in D&D. I thought it would do well, actually. I mean, I spent a lot of time on it. It was a requested video, but it bombed hard. You know, I barely earned more than if I hadn't released a video at all that day. And, you know, sometimes that happens. But one way or the other, on those in-between days, the graph goes down. But there is still revenue. A video earns by far the most amount on the first day it's released. And then it goes down fairly quickly from that. But as long as somebody is watching a video and it has ads on it, it still earns revenue. Let's look at my earliest video. This is the one that was terrible. Well, if we look at this, we can see it still earned about $2 last month. And this video owes me nothing, right? Like I said, it wasn't a great video. It's not earning a lot, but there is money still coming in from it. And what you might think from that is that maybe if you get a big enough catalog, then maybe you don't even have to release new videos and you can continually earn more money because people will watch those old videos. And I got to tell you, that's not my understanding. My understanding, and now I have never stopped making videos, so I can't say this from experience, but my understanding is YouTube recommends my videos because I am making new videos. And most of the time, they recommend my new videos. Then what happens is I get new viewers from those new videos because I'm being recommended to them. And then they go back and they'll watch some of my older content because they like this video and they think, what else has this guy done? And they'll watch some of my old stuff. And so that earns me revenue from those. What'll happen is if I stop making content is I'll stop being recommended. And if I'm not recommended, there's just a limited number of times that my current watchers are going to watch my videos over and over. And it's basically going to dry up, and it's going to dry up really fast. Now, there is something really important that you need to know if you are even thinking about doing YouTube as a career. And that is, if you want job security, you do not want to be a YouTuber. There is no job security here. I am doing this right now, and I think I'll probably still be doing it, a month from now. Will I be doing it a year from now? I hope so. I hope I'm doing it 10 years from now, but the odds of that are not high. Basically, the first thing is YouTube channels come and go. So YouTube channel comes in, people watch it, then they stop watching it, and then it's done, right? There's no point in that person continuing to put out content if no one's watching it. It's over. This could happen to me tomorrow. All it would need is for somebody to come along and make the same kind of content I do, but make it better. Then, my viewers will go deservedly watch them instead of me, and I'm done. Another thing that could happen is D&D is really popular right now, so I'm lucky for that because that means there's more players, which means I get more viewers. But if D&D had the popularity it had 10 years ago, there is no way I could make a living doing this. There is just no way there wouldn't be enough viewers. So another thing that could change at any time. D&D is popular today. It may not be popular a year from now or 5 years from now. Like, they're coming up with a new player's handbook. If that player's handbook is terrible and bombs, I'm in big trouble. I may not have a job anymore. And also, I am paid because Google has set things up for me to be paid. Like, I mean, obviously, they could just decide to end the partnership program. They could do that at any time for any reason, and I'm immediately unemployed. That I don't think is likely to happen, but they technically have the power to do that. That's not likely what could get me, but what might get me is the algorithm, because the YouTube algorithm determines who gets recommended to who, and that is your livelihood. And they change it all the time, and they don't tell you how it works. YouTubers spend a lot of time and effort trying to figure out how to game the system. How do I get the algorithm to recommend my videos? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not one of them because I have no clue and I wouldn't even know where to start. So I just put out my videos and I hope that YouTube recommends me, and they seem to, right? My views are there, and they seem to keep coming, and they seem to go up, at least if we look in the long term. So the algorithm seems to be working in my favor without me trying at all. That could change tomorrow. The algorithm changes all the time. And if they change the algorithm so my videos are no longer recommended, I am unemployed. So all these things, there is no job security. I've heard of YouTubers who, burned their bridges from their previous job. They're crazy. I gave 1 month of notice to my employer, and I sent them a letter thanking them for the years working there, so that if and when YouTube dries up on me, because it could happen at any time, at least I can go back, because you do not have a job to count on. I mean, and the banks know it too. That's another thing you should know. So I recently moved into a house. So I was living in a townhouse. Now I technically own that as well, or at least had a mortgage. And what I had was, there was a lot of noise that I'd get from my neighbors. I had recently gotten neighbors that were much louder. And this was a problem for recording videos. So that is one of the reasons we decided, we could really go for a house. And then I decided, well, you know what? I'm earning more with YouTube, so I should be able to qualify for a bigger mortgage than I did 10 years ago when I was earning much less. And I think we can get a half-decent house. So I contacted my bank and many other banks, and I discovered that nobody would touch me because I was a YouTuber. And they were very blunt about it. They're like, YouTube is new, and we can see it is unstable. We cannot count on you having this income 5 months from now, 10 months from now. Next month, you may earn nothing, and we cannot possibly lend you money with that kind of risk. In the end, I was able to buy a house, but basically, first off, I had to move across the country to find cheaper retail values so I could get a cheap house. So now I have a tiny mortgage, and I couldn't even get that through a bank. I had to get that through what they call a secondary lender or a B lender, and a mortgage broker who fought to get me anything at all. And then I was able to buy an inexpensive house. And at least I have a small mortgage. But basically, job security, you don't have it, and the banks know it. Now, there's another thing you should be aware of if you become a professional YouTuber, because it's going to cause you a lot of anxiety unless you know beforehand. In fact, it will probably cause you a lot of anxiety regardless of knowing this. But your income is going to fluctuate. It is going to fluctuate a lot. And there will be trends. And sometimes you're going to be trending down, 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 down. And you are convinced that this is the end of your channel. And then all of a sudden, up, 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 up. And there's no reason for it. No rhyme, no reason that you can fathom until you do it year after year after year. And then what you realize is it's the season, the seasonality of both the viewership and of ad revenue, because Google is negotiating ads. So when it's Christmas time, they can get a lot of money for ads. When it is the middle of summer, they don't get very much at all. So for the same amount of ad views, I will earn more in December than I do this month. That's just the way it is. Another thing that happens, and this is really scary the first time it happens. In fact, I recently had Cody from D4 Deep Dive talk to me and the Dungeon Dudes. We have kind of a private chat, and it was January, and he said, "I'm really worried. Is your income way down this month?" And we all were like, "Oh yeah, that's normal." January is tough, right? Because I mean, this year my income dropped 43% in January, right? And it's not just views, right? Your ad revenue is down, but also your views are down. And my income dropped 43%, and it's scary, at least the first time. This year, I kind of knew what to expect, though it was a sharper drop than the year before, so that didn't make me feel good. But that's just the way it is. You don't know. And then February was a little better, and then March was a little better, and then April was down, and then May was back up, and then June was down, July was down, August was down. And the thing is I looked in August, and my views in August were higher than they had been ever. But my income had gone down 3 months in a row. And it was well below where it was the previous December. Just the way it is. Income fluctuates. Get used to it. It doesn't always indicate the health of your channel. Sometimes it's just the season. Oh, and also dispense with the notion that you have any idea what's going to happen with your videos. So I'll look at my roster right now, and I can see what videos I'll be releasing over the next couple of weeks. And in my head, I can't help it. I think I know which ones are going to do well and which ones aren't. And usually it's basically that one there. I think it's an engaging topic. I think I handled it well. I think it's a good video. I spent a lot of time on it, and I think it shows, and I think it's really going to do well. And that video, I kind of just threw together. I was low on time, so I made it short. I didn't cover very much. I didn't have a lot of interesting things to say. But at least I'm releasing a video. And then it comes out, and the one you spent all that time and effort on, well, it bombed. And the one that was a throwaway video, it was your best video in your last 10. If you think a weather forecaster is not very accurate, well, they got nothing on me. Now, I think my YouTube channel does fairly decent for its size, but I will say that if I was totally dependent on Google ad revenue, I couldn't survive. I think if I was single, I maybe could be fine, right? Like if I had, a basement suite and I was on my own, I could probably get by on my Google ad revenue alone. But with a family and mortgage, there was no way I could make it on Google ad revenue alone. In the end, Google ads pay for about half my income. So the other half, it comes down to two things. The first is Patreon. I would not have this channel anymore if it wasn't for Patreon. Like I said, there was a certain point where I had to choose. I was either going to stick with my job or switch to YouTube. There was no way I could do both anymore. I was just burnt out. I had nothing left. The gas tank was empty. So I had to make that decision, and I looked at my income for YouTube and for Patreon, and I determined that this was a big cut. So I went to my budget, and I'm like, can I at least meet my bills? And I had to cut that budget to the bone. We cut our grocery bills in half. We ate out never. Zero ordering in. Everything was home cooked, and there were a lot of beans and there were a lot of hot dogs. And that's just the way it had to be because I was earning low income. But without Patreon, I wouldn't have even been able to do that. I couldn't have possibly continued YouTube at that point. So fortunately, Patreon did give me enough that I could get by. Now, I find that Patreon generally pays me less than my Google ad revenue. Now, you can kind of see where I am here on this graph tree on. It says I am 5,833rd highest patron rank. And it says I earn between $441 and $4,000 a month. I assume that's in US dollars because Patreon pays me in US dollars, and I am in that range. In fact, I'm closer to the 4K than I am to the 441, though I'd love to be closer yet to that 4K, but it is correct there. Now, here's the way that Patreon works. First off, the payments for Patreon are way more stable than YouTube. Generally speaking, most of your patrons are going to stick with you month after month after month. So month after month after month, you have some idea of what you're going to receive, and it's usually pretty close. What will happen here, here's a graph. You're going to see that on the first of the month, every month, you lose a bunch of subscribers. That's when they collect the payments, right? So if somebody's leaving your channel, that's when it shows up. And then you build up throughout the month, and hopefully you build up to where you were before, or if you're lucky, a little bit higher than that. And usually that's the case, though lately it's been reducing a little bit, but not to the point where I'm really concerned. I'm currently at 420 subscribers, and I've been hovering in that 400 range for quite a while now. Now, I was surprised how many patrons I got, because basically I'm like, are my rewards really worth that, right? Like, you can avoid some ads, and then you have to pay me directly every month. Who's going to want to do that? But what I find is most of the patrons, it's not about seeing the video early or seeing it without ads. It's, they like my content and they want to support me making that content, and so they contribute to the Patreon in order to do that. So my patrons out there, thank you so much. And if you were a patron in April of 2020 when I had that hard decision to make, thank you even more for that, because that was huge. Without Patreon, like I said, there would be no channel. Actually, the main income fluctuation from Patreon has nothing to do with Patreon or YouTube, because they pay me in American dollars and I'm a Canadian. So if the Canadian dollar is up, I earn less. And if the Canadian dollar is down, I earn more. And I've heard my whole life that business owners like it when the Canadian dollar is weaker because it's better for them. And now I get it. It is better for me when the Canadian dollar is down because I earn more of those Canadian dollars when you convert that American Patreon money into Canadian dollars. And the way it kind of breaks down is I make 50% of my income from Google ad revenue. And I make about 45% of my income from Patreon. And then the other 5% we should really talk about, because although it's only 5% for me, it is much, much higher for many YouTubers. And it could be higher for me if I wanted to hustle for it. And that is sponsorship. So in my case, I don't really work to find sponsors. So basically, if you've seen sponsorship on this channel, it's because they came to me to ask me to sponsor their product. And a number of people who came to me to ask me to sponsor the product, you still don't see sponsor any videos here because maybe I'm not that thrilled with their product, or I don't think it's right for my audience, or we can't agree on a price. And then that video just doesn't get sponsored. But I'm going to give you some behind the scenes stuff here. So first off, I know a YouTuber who is a colleague who has similar content, who has sponsorship on every single video he does. And I'll tell you, he charges triple what I do to sponsor his videos. The reason he's able to do that and still get sponsors for every video is because he hustles, right? So you have to chase the sponsors. So you go to them and you say, hey, you want to sponsor my videos. I'm going to get you sales. And then if you do that enough times, you're going to get the sponsors for your videos, and you're going to find sponsors who are willing to pay more. And for that YouTuber, I'm certain most of his income is from sponsors. And I'll give you another little behind the scenes thing is that if I wanted to chase sponsors, I know exactly who to talk to. As YouTubers, we kind of keep in contact with each other. So I belong to what we call creator discords. They're like private discords where YouTube creators in the D&D sphere, for me, get together and we share information. So, if we note that, maybe somebody is toxic and they're leaving toxic messages, we'll let the other people know to watch out for them. But we'll also do things like if one of us gets a sponsor and we think that person might be willing to sponsor other people, we'll post that. This company here is looking for sponsors. You should go check them out if you're looking for sponsorship. So I could go there right now and I could find people willing to sponsor my videos. But I'd have to go after them. Then I have to negotiate a price. And then the work just begins. Because there's really two kinds of sponsors you generally get. The first kind, they'll tell you, listen, we want to sponsor your video and we want to buy an ad spot. And here's a list of things we want you to say, and here's a bunch of graphics or animation we want you to show. And they always add this, but do it in your own voice. Say it in the way that you would say it, but say these things. And that is what we'll pay you for. Then there's the second type of sponsor. And the second type of sponsor, what they'll say is, we like your channel and we know that you can probably do a better job than we can. So here's our product. You find your own way to promote it. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to tell you how long the ad needs to be or how often you need to repeat it. But here's a link. It's specialized to you. You're going to put it on your videos, and we'll monitor the traffic and we'll monitor the sales that you generate us. And if they're enough, we will continue to sponsor you. And that second type might sound better. It is, in my opinion, way worse. I'd much rather have them just say these things, show these graphics, we'll pay you. Because with the second one, I mean, for me, creativity is something I pump into my videos. And it is in a supply. There's like a fuel level. And if I am using that creativity for, my ads, because basically you need to come up with a creative way that is going to get people to click that link. And you need to come up with that yourself. So basically you're in advertising now. You're an ad creator. And yeah, you will spend your creativity on that and less on your actual videos. So I'm not a fan of that. In fact, I had a sponsor who basically told me to do that. And, we had a good relationship, but eventually I dumped them. They were willing to continue sponsoring me, but I just couldn't do it anymore because I was spending so much time coming up with what their ad would be and less time on what the video would be. And it just wasn't right for me. It was a bad fit for me. I know it's much better for a lot of other YouTubers, but I had to basically give that one up. But I still do sponsorship sometimes. In fact, I recently did a sponsorship that was a little different. They came to me and they had a Kickstarter. They had a new D&D campaign and they had an introductory adventure. And they said, hey, we would like to sponsor you to play the adventure on your channel. And I charged them significantly less than I usually charge, even for a 2-minute ad spot. Even though this was an 1.5-hour video, that was essentially one big commercial because I'm playing D&D. And that is something I enjoy doing. So I knew it was an ad I would have fun making because I'm doing exactly what I want to do. So yeah, I got some friends together and we made that and it was a good experience. And so I charged less for it and it was great. But I will say that if you become a YouTuber, that's basically with sponsorship. Once you get to that 10,000 subscriber mark or more, I'd be chasing sponsors if you want to make as much money as you can, because you can earn a ton doing that. For me, it's a bit of a luxury that I don't spend more of my time and more of my day making ads because I have enough income that I don't need to. And I still do some because they come to me and I kind of like their product and, I want to help them out. And so I'll do sponsorship, but the vast majority of my videos don't have a sponsor. All right. So that's where the income comes from. Now let's talk about what it means to be full-time as a YouTuber, at least for me. So I generally work between 50 and 60 hours a week. Now, there are some advantages there. First off, like I said, I don't set an alarm. I get up when I want to, and I go to bed when I want to. I also have a flexible schedule. So if I wanted to work a shorter day today, I could do that. I can tell you right now, today is already a long day. So that's not happening. But I could if I wanted to. The third thing I should mention is that I don't commute. So I get up, I make my coffee, I walk to the basement where my office is here, and I get to work. And then when I'm done, I walk upstairs and I'm back home again. So I save time on commuting. So that 50 to 60 isn't as much as it sounds like. I used to work 40 hours a week and it felt like more than the 50 to 60 hours a week I work now. And usually my day kind of goes like this. So I'll wake up, make my coffee, I go downstairs. I'll look for messages. So did I get any new patrons? If I do, I want to send them a thank you. Did I get any messages from patrons? If I do, I want to respond to them. Did I get any questions on my Discord or from patrons? I want to answer those questions. But I also have things I need to do today. So sometimes people will ask me questions and it would take me a lot of research and time to answer. Like, they'll ask me questions about a video I did a year ago, and they'll go, if you were to take this feat instead of that feat at this level, how would you go about, your spell selection at this level? Well, I can't really answer that without watching that video again and then thinking about it, and answering that one question might take me hours. I don't have hours to answer questions. I have minutes. So if you've asked me a question and I've given you kind of a quick answer, that's why I don't have the time to do it. This is just my first cup of coffee. I'm going to answer some messages and then I need to get to work. And so, yeah, when I get to answering questions, I basically have a time limit. I can't be spending more than 2 minutes on a question. But once I've kind of dealt with messages, then I have work to do. It'll depend on the day of the week, but I generally will pre-schedule myself. So some days I'll do video topics, so I need to research what my video topics will be and do outlines. Then I'll have a day for scripting. Now, I should say a day for scripting. Sometimes I can script 4 hours. This script that you are currently listening to, try about, it had to be, 20 to 30 hours. Right? It was crazy because I had to keep rewriting it, and it's a long script. So yeah, it really depends. But I'll give myself a day for a script for a video, and hopefully I achieve a script in that time. Then the next day, recording and editing. The editing sucks, but it's got to be done. So as long as my script is done, then I can do that the following day. I can usually do recording and editing of one video in one day. Then the next day, scripting again, and then the next day, recording and editing again. If all goes well, that's 5 days. Usually 10 hours a day. But things don't always go well. Like I said, this script here took me 3 days, or the best part of 3 days. So now, there goes my weekend. And that's just the way it is. In fact, I usually end up working on the weekends. Not for 10 hours a day, but I'll work weekends pretty much every weekend, unless I actually have plans for the weekend. Then I just, put a hard line, not going to work. But otherwise, I almost always, I'll get an idea and I'm like, I should get to work on that. And you got to get work on it right away. You feel it. If you don't, it's anxiety. And I highly recommend, if you do YouTube, that you do what I do. And I don't complete a video and then make it public right away. And the reason I don't do that is because if I got sick next week and I didn't have any videos in the pipeline, then I couldn't take my time off. I'd have to make videos sick. There's just no way around it. Or my channel could really suffer. So what I try to do is I try to stay about 2 weeks ahead. And then what'll happen is if I need a week for vacation, then I come back on 1 week ahead, then I catch up until I'm 2 weeks ahead again. But yeah, if something unforeseen happens as well, I have those extra videos to rely on. When I recently did a very big move, I heavily relied on having videos ahead of time so that my channel could continue to release new videos. And I just scheduled them to come out at the right times. And on those videos, I didn't really respond to anybody in the comment section because I was driving across the country. But basically, they took care of themselves and it got me to where I needed to be. So definitely do that. YouTube responds better if you have a regular schedule for videos. So get your videos a little bit ahead. And then, if something goes wrong, you're still releasing. And that is pretty much all the wisdom I have on YouTubing. So if you are making that decision on whether you might want to be a YouTuber or not, or maybe you weren't, and then you watch this video and you're like, maybe I should, then I hope I help you make a decision. I hope that decision is good for you. But now I have to close this video, and my usual closing doesn't work because it's D&D related. So instead I'll say I'll sit back, relax, and yeah, YouTubing is not for everyone. It's for some people. It might be for you. And if it is, I hope you do well.